Chris,
Hello.
thanks so much for coming on, man.
You're welcome.
So, obviously, for anyone that doesn't recognise who you are,
Yeah.
you see, the thing is, some of the stories that we wanna tell are success stories,
Yeah.
and you've certainly got a success story of your own. Briefly getting to know you over the last couple of weeks, you know, you've told me from where you've come from to where you are now. But yeah, share with us, man. What's your journey been like? Where did you start?
Well, to be honest, I mean, didn't have the best upbringing. I don't blame my parents, you know what I mean, because at the end of the day, they suffered. They were very ill people. And you can't pass on love. You can't pass on to your kids or to whoever close to you. You can't pass something on that you haven't got to pass, such as love. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
Right.
So, I held a lot of resentments to my parents for a long time, but that only made me unwell. You know what I mean? Really did. So, I won't go into detail about stuff because at the end of the day, it's not fair on my mum, you know what I mean? And
I get that.
My mum's she's an amazing woman, do you know what I mean? And I forgive for everything. And, but, what I'll say is this, is that when you're growing up, right, based on your upbringing, from 0 to 7 years of age, that's what you become, and that's what I became. So I became dishonest, angry, emotional. I was full of fear. I was scared all the time, and I didn't have the right emotions growing up. So I was kind of, I was basically like, I didn't have a chance from day one. So basically, when that happens, and you're deprived the emotions that you should get, such as, love, security in the home. As a child growing up, that's what you need to grow up and to be like a functioning person, you know what I mean? Whereas, as I say, I'm not blaming my parents for it, but this is my truth. This is my truth, and this will help a lot of other people who've been in the same boat, who don't understand why they are how they are.
You're a product of your environment, aren't you?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. So basically, being deprived of all them love and emotions, security, love, affection, care.
It's Maslow, isn't it? There's a triangle of needs.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like protection, shelter, food, they're all top.
Absolutely.
That, yeah.
See, I used to look at my cousins, my Auntie Barbara, her children, my Uncle Mark, and I was obsessed with growing up. I wanted to be another child. I wanted to feel different. I remember even as an early age, I wanted to feel different. I didn't want to feel the way I felt. I knew it was wrong. I was constantly full of fear. I was, and this is not just for me. I mean, my sister Claire was involved in this, you know what I mean? So this is not just all about me, it's about my sister as well. And I've got a younger brother, Carl and Jenny. So basically, I mean, but obviously the young ones didn't see exactly what me and Claire seen and what we went through. So as I was saying, basically, when you're growing up in that kind of environment and you're deprived of all the emotions that you have, such as, feeling safe, feeling secure, waking up into a happy environment, not knowing whether there was going to be murder in the house, the police were coming through the door, whether your dad was going to hit your mum, whether your mum was going to hit your dad, whether we had food on the table. And we really did used to struggle. My mum used to go without food to feed us. It was, and these are the things that I forgot about my mum, you see. You know what I mean? I forgot. I just hated her.
Yeah.
Right? Because I couldn't understand why. The things, there was a lot more stuff that, that happened, but I'm not willing to talk about because, some things should be left unsaid. But, I've always been angry at my mum, and my dad Ronnie Parrott. Basically, for me, my dad was my best friend. Well, my dad was still on the gear, when he passed. But you'd never tell he was on a gear because he had a business, he had jewelry, he was a nice girl, nice car, and so he was my hero sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when I lost my dad, I was 19 years old, and I went off the rails. I wasn't a bad lad up until then. And then basically my dad passed away, and my life just turned. So I started doing things like at the end of the day, look, I mean, I've got to tell my story and be honest about it. Yes, I was selling drugs, and then I started using drugs, but I wasn't really bad taking drugs or something like that. But what I found is when I first took a drug, I found myself feeling amazing. It was cocaine, like a feeling I'd never had, like I belonged somewhere, like I belonged there, because I've always felt empty. I've always had a void. I've always felt empty inside and confused by my mental state and my thoughts and my thinking, confused. And why am I like this? Why do I feel like this? Why do I think like this? So from there, basically, I've tried cocaine. And it just gave me a new way of life. It gave me a new personality. It really did. I was like, bouncing around tables in the pubs. I was talking to strangers, and I was like, thinking I was like really, really special. Do you know what I mean? But then that obviously after the high had gone, I'd go back to myself. You know what I mean? I'd be that lost little boy again. Do you know what I mean? I'd be lost again. So basically, over the years, I mean, I was taking cocaine and alcohol, and it was all right. But then it started getting a bit too much, and I realised it was becoming a problem. And I wasn't an everyday user, but it was like every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. But the amount I'd consume in that time, I may as well be doing it every day.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So you cross a bridge in addiction. You cross a bridge. There's no coming back. Unless you can get a mental defence against that first drink and first drug. Do you know what I mean? And it takes a lot. I tried for years and years to do it. But to be honest with you, I didn't have the mentality to do it. I was so unwell inside. So I tried, and I went to CA meetings. I worked a 12-step program. But no matter what I did, my thoughts and my way of thinking, it kept me clean for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
And then all the spiritual diseases that I suffer with, such as loneliness, depression, despair, anxiety, frustration, low self-worth, low confidence, just all these spiritual diseases, I'm walking around with these all the time. And my behaviour is adding to it. You know what I mean? Because I'm literally walking around with all these spiritual diseases. I'm walking around with probably 7 different personalities. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know. I just don't know who I am and what I'm doing. So that's all stemmed from like the mental health. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I strongly believe it's through childhood trauma, which I've been told it's childhood trauma. But through my life, I knew that there's something better to me than this. So I didn't stop. I kept trying, and I kept trying. So it was, let's say, it was about 10 years ago. I went through, I had a little house, a little car, a little job, and it was pointless because every penny I was getting, I was spending. I weren't giving me kids time. I was letting them down. I weren't turning up for work, and I was just a mess. I was lost. Do you know what I mean? I now call myself, I was sick. I don't call myself a piece of shit like I used to, or a dog, or I'm a rat. Or I just hate myself. I just thought it was me, and I was programmed to let my kids down, and I hated every time I did it. I hated myself. So I mean, I had a conscience, but other people couldn't see that. So I'd had enough anyway, and my brother Les, he inspired me. He inspired me because he'd done something a few months prior. He went to this Kevin White unit,
right?
And I'm like, what's all this about, this recovery stuff and that? So, and he came out there, and he was a different man. He was glowing. He looked boss. He was everything. I was like, And this is, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've been missing. So, got myself into a rehab, but unfortunately got kicked out after 3 weeks for fighting in there.
Right.
And it was my fault, because basically I was jealous of another person getting a relationship there, we're allowed to be in a relationship, because I was seriously unstable, so I ended up in that. But ended up going to a sheltered accommodation from there. Sheltered accommodation was supposed to be like a dry house, right? But it wasn't so much a dry house. It was the lads in there, they were drinking and using drugs and stuff. So from there, I mean, I stayed clean for quite a while, and and my brain started growing again. Because when you use drugs, your brain dies. You're using drugs continually. Your brain cells die and your brain stops growing. So you stay at that age you are. You stay as a child. You stay like a child. But when you stop using drugs, you stay out mentally. Your brain starts going back. So in the space of me being clean, the amounts of stuff that's going to happen for me is absolutely phenomenal. It really is. I mean, even sitting here now, with you guys, you know what I mean? It means a lot to me. For me to be here doing this, and where I was a few years ago, literally, it's a miracle. It really is, and I'm so proud of myself, where I come from. I really am, because, I believed I couldn't do this on my own. I don't believe that I've done this on my own. I believe in divine intervention. Now, my dad to me is with me. He's my higher power. I live my dad. I live him. Yeah, he's not here. He's 23 years past. But I live my dad. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning, and I will listen to Pink Floyd. 6 songs. I will listen to Vangelis. 6 songs. And I'll do this. I'll spend an hour and a half in the morning and listen to these songs. I'll listen to songs for my nan, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Right? My nan's song, you know what? And it connects me. It wakes me up in the morning, and it connects me to this power, right? That you can't see, but I can only feel, right? And I tell you what, and I tell people to do this. Music is the one, right? You're depressed, put music on. If you feel down, put music on. Because what it does is it opens your ears, then open your eyes, and it opens your memories to good memories and stuff like that. So that's what I do every morning.
I love that.
Yeah.
Every morning. And it's powerful stuff, man. It's powerful stuff.
So you now have the ability to recognise the emotions and the states that you was in during that time. So, but when you're in the moments and states at that time, you don't really recognise yourself, what they are, but you know now what they are. So what would you say to somebody who may be in that state or in that thing, how they can now recognise that and try and like the music was brilliant, but like you said, you didn't really know, you was like, say, depressed, you did have anxiety, you did have all these other emotions. What can you say now to somebody, like, you're feeling that, but you can lift yourself out from that?
Okay, so it basically, I mean, I'll say this, doesn't matter who you are, right? Everyone suffers with some sort of form of mental illness, right? And everything is mental illness. Depression, slight anxiety, running away with your thoughts, you know what I mean? Thinking things you don't really want to think about. It's all mental health. So, understanding it, right? And this is for like addicts, all addicts, they say, I use because of this, I use because of that. Now why addicts use is because that void needs filling. So they don't realise that, obviously, when I said before, they're walking around so many different spiritual diseases, and they're really, really unwell. So their escape route, their comfort blanket, is whatever drug they've chose, right? So they keep reaching that. So what happens is your brain will only remember the pleasurable part of what you've done previously. So, example, it'll remember a party, or remember the line you had, and this boss sex you had with this gorgeous girl, who's, you know what I mean, and it'll remember that, but it won't remember the week before, right? It won't remember the week before when you were basically having an heart attack, or you left, or you didn't pick your kids up, or you lost your job, or you're in dire straits and you nearly commit suicide. Your brain won't remember a single thing. It'll only remember the pleasurable part. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff with the brain, which I've studied a lot, and I've done a lot of work on myself. You got the party brain, your neocortex and your amygdala. I mean, you're probably aware of these things, you know, and if you feed your amygdala, it's a survival party brain, you feed that part of your brain with something pleasurable for so long, then that's going to scream at you. When it's not you're putting that into your system, and that part of your brain's not getting it, it's going to flash and it's going to scream, you know, I need whatever it is that you take, and then that sends signals over to your neocortex. So your neocortex makes the decision, and yes, that's use. But the thing is, you need a mental defense against the first drink. You've got to have a mental defense, otherwise you're not gonna. You're never gonna. There's no way you can stop. It's impossible. You lose the power to choose. Do you know what I mean? Just get back to what you asked me about understanding your illness, separating your addiction from your illness. Now, right, I know that any given day I can wake up and I can feel low, I can feel down, I can feel sad, I can feel really happy, I can feel over happy, right? And these emotions that everyone has, right? Yeah. Whereas the emotions, the bad emotions, maybe the loneliness, low self-esteem, low confidence in my business, low confidence in things around me, you know, once your brain's giving them endorphins off and telling you that you're depressed, and you know what, you believe your own thinking, you believe your own brain, but your brain is the most cunning, baffling thing about you. It tells you lies, it lies to you, it makes you believe stuff, right? It's like a computer. So understanding, right, the addiction from your illness, right? Your illness is your addiction, because it's not the cocaine snorting you, it's not the alcohol drinking you, it's not the heroin smoking you, it's you smoking the heroin, you sniffing the coke, and you drinking the alcohol, right? So where does that problem lie? It lies with you and not with that. And people think that that's the problem, the drug is the problem. It's not. The problem is in here, right? And a good way around it is being spiritual, being nice, giving back, being loving to everyone. Don't judge people. That you know, a lot of people judge, and they shouldn't, because they've got so many character defects, right? You look at, you know, a lot of people judge them a lot worse than what they're judging them. But you can't judge people. You've never walked in their shoes. You know, until you've walked into someone's shoes, you don't know the story, you don't know what they're about, you don't know what they've gone through in life. Do you know what I mean? You can't judge. So, you know, you need to be open-minded and have a good heart around people, and which I do. I have a passion now, a passion of giving back to the community, and I do a lot of stuff. I won't go into detail, but I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes and stuff for a lot of other people, and it's a passion of mine, you know. And I don't do it. I don't do it out of look at me. I don't do it out of any of that. I do it because I was there. I was there at one. Yeah. I was there. I was close to a lot the way you see people now. See, obviously when you're depressed, and we were talking about it then, you're depressed and you don't realise, because it sneaks in. You see, depression sneaks in. It comes in all ways, back door, through the letterbox. It'll come in and it can take you, you know, and you'll start sleeping in bed a little bit later, you know, maybe half an hour, and in a couple of days you get another half an hour, and you don't really want to get out of bed, but you don't know why. It's like, because it's alien to you. Do you know what I mean? But then once that starts happening, the alarm bell should ring. You know what I mean? And you need to do something about it quick. I mean, it happened to me a few weeks ago. I started sleeping in a bit, and I wasn't going down and listening to my music the way I was. So my routine was changing, right? So I need to be on absolute guard with this, because I can let it flow past me and it not even realise what I'm doing. So I think last year, it was a few weeks ago, so when I come downstairs, and I got on the couch and I didn't move off the couch. So about 5 o'clock, and something just dawned on me, and I stormed off the couch, and I got dressed and I went to the gym. And you know what? I never looked back.
See, I think that's important to point out, because I think it can be daunting for some people. Like, let's say you've gone through mental issues and things like this, and you say, okay, right, go get help. Sometimes for some people, I don't know, I'm going off my experience, it is always there, but it's recognising it then. You know what I mean? Recognising those signs. The thing is, if you've had trauma in the past, you'll still have trauma in the past, no matter what. You can never fix trauma in the past, but helping to deal with it, and then, like you say, once you've got the help, reverting back and understanding those signs, you know, seeing those signs. So that's important, I think, to point out that, you know, things will still be the same, but the way you look at it and think about it and deal with it is what changes it, you know what I mean?
I always heard as well, I don't know whether you'll agree with this, but I had it sometimes like the self-limiting beliefs, the self-doubt and things like that. The voice in your head is your voice, and you're more likely to listen to it because you're used to that voice. So you trust that voice and what it's saying. Learning to realise that you can actually say to that, no, you're wrong, shut up. Or even change that to a different, somebody else's voice, because then you recognise it more and say, no, stop. No. I felt, and I found that was a big help and turnaround. Just recognising that, hang on, that's me talking, and I'm listening to it because I trust me more than probably a lot of other people. So
yeah, well, that's a lot for a lot of people. It's like two talking heads, right? And I've got that. I've got two brains. One is very, very intelligent, sophisticated, and straight down the line. And the other one is angry, resentful, thinks of like people who've upset me, and thinking of acts of violence, and but I hush that. I hush that. I say, I don't listen. Do you know what I mean? It goes in one of it might sound strange to a lot of people, but you know what? It's fact. It's true. But it's being able to control your thinking. If you can control your thinking, you can control absolutely anything. And that's a fact. If you can control your thinking, and it's hard to do, as you said. Then you believe your own thinking. You believe your brain, because it's part of you. You trust it with your life. Do you know what I mean? You really do. So, but your brain is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and it's like a computer. Do you know what I mean? One thing I done, one of my sort of therapies, and I've talked about this before, and it's something I swear by now. Obviously, everyone's different. Every therapy needs to be catered to each individual. For me, it was something called the inner families, the inner child therapy. Now, when I met someone, one of the first things this guy asked me was, do I have any children? And I said, no, I've got no children. He said, you have? I was like, well, is there something I've not been told here? And he said, you've got many little Daniels inside you. And for some people, that you might think, what's he mean by that? And he said to me, how old's your youngest Daniel? And the first answer that came out my mouth was, he's 7 years old. And it started to make sense. So when I said that I experienced these feelings and thoughts of anger, of fear, of loneliness, of sadness, he said, that's not me today, because we know who we want to be today. Our authentic self knows to ignore all that, knows to do right and do good. But when we feel fear, that's a 14-year-old you. When we feel loneliness, that's a 7-year-old you. When we feel anger, that's an 18-year-old you. They're all these memories coming back. And he said, but you, today, as a parent to your younger children, take them by the hand and say, I'll look after you. You don't need to feel scared. You don't need to feel anger. And that's what that resonated with me, and that's what the therapy I done. Is that something you could relate with? Yeah, it is. I mean, that is powerful what you just said. I mean, I've never heard that or thought of that, but yeah, I mean, it is, because basically, we stay childish. Yeah. We stay childish through certain things through our lives, like addiction and like basically what we said about upbringings and stuff like that. Because you're not getting the right information. So I mean, in your brain, it's not, you're not functioning properly. So it has a great effect on you. But what you just said there was quite powerful, and it does make sense. Yeah.
Like you say, because I think most things, and certainly with today, it's hard for men, because you say don't cry, don't show weakness or any vulnerability, and I think that as well sometimes holds us back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I say, and it was until I done that, I thought, actually, it's okay to feel these things because it is just my children. And as a parent now, and that's the way I had to look at it, you know what I mean? And that's what helped me. And it's something I swear by, but it's because, again, it's most of these things, these issues, they stem from childhood, you know what I mean? You know, so it's
I think, like, your brain as a child when you're growing, so when you're in the cot, it's like Jenga blocks, isn't it? So you look at a baby and you goo goo gaga and give it that. It might sound and seem stupid, but what you're actually doing is turning little lights on in the brain. It's responsive, it's attachment and things like that. And if you think as the brain as a Jenga block, and you don't put that block in, or you take that block away by not engaging it, it's hard then to have that and get that back in later life. And it's only when you learn the hard way that you think, oh, actually, that's why I was that way for a bit or whatever. But it's all about knowing and accepting and engaging it, isn't it? Yeah, and doing something about it. And recognising the signs, that's a big thing, you know, and that's a power, that's a superpower that you've got now, that you can recognise these signs and stuff.
So basically what I've done, literally, is I've changed the, my next generation, right? So, and when I say that, I mean that in a way of like, my kids don't touch. One of my sons, Lee, has a spliff. You know what I mean? But I don't like it. But my other sons, you know what? They don't smoke, don't do anything. So change the generation of what my generation was of my growing up. So I've got two little boys, Vinny and Mason. Mason's a YouTuber. He's only 7. He does all his own videos and everything. He's quality. Yeah. And then my little boy Vinny now. He's with me most of the time, Vinny. And I like to think of myself as an amazing dad, because all I do is just show me kids absolute love. I make them feel loved and secure, so they don't practicing the opposites of what I did. So I remember absolutely everything that made me afraid. So I don't do anything. I don't raise my voice. Don't swear. And you know what? When he's naughty, he's naughty sometimes. When he's naughty, you know what? I enjoy it because at the end of the day, he's my little boy, and he's got a lovely side to it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I'm changing the way my family was. Yeah. As of now, I mean, I've got my three eldest sons. They're very comfortable. They've got They work for the business. Sam, my eldest lad, runs one company. He did lads at Anthony Lee. Basically, they're running CK driveways. Yeah. I was started from that. I mean, I started without absolutely anything at all. When I was in the shared accommodation, I had this idea of doing driveway cleaning. Well, I had no money, I had no van, I had no driveway cleaning machine.
So what age was this?
Oh, so about 33, right. 32, 33. So, but bear in mind, I was still very, very immature. I was like an 18-year-old kid in the brain, because I'd blighted my brain for that long with binge drinking and stuff, and I didn't know what it was. So I mean, so I say my brain stopped growing. So at that age, I was
still at 19 years.
I was really, really immature. Really, honestly, just I'd look at people my own age, and they look like big grown men to me. If that makes sense, they look like big grown men. I wouldn't see myself on par with them and the same man as them, because that was the confidence I had in myself, and I didn't realise how much low self-worth that I had for myself. Do you know what I mean? So I always felt inadequate, different to everyone else, unless I was off my cake. Do you know what I mean? And then I'd feel, when I say off my cake, I mean, when I say that, I mean when I'd experienced that I'd had some drugs or, you know what I mean, I'd feel okay. Do you know what I mean? But then it just crossed the threshold. I just do it, and it stopped working. Do you know what I mean? And paranoia set in. Paranoia, drug-induced psychosis, where you're doing all stupid things in the house. You're looking through windows. You end up you've got knives under your pillows, and just really chaotic stuff. Like really, really horrible stuff. And everyone who uses cocaine, they experience the same thing. Doesn't matter who you are, a man or a woman, you experience. Some people are a lot worse. I know someone who used to have people in the skating boards. She used to think people were in the skating boards and to be hacking it out, right? Thinking there's people in there. And that's what it does. That's what that drug does. All drugs are exactly the same. There's no difference from drugs to addiction is addiction. Cakes, sex, drugs, alcohol. No matter what, cars, money.
I like your first two.
So do I. But anyway, so addiction is addiction, you know, and you know, people don't see addiction as an illness because addiction doesn't make money. Cancer does, yeah. All these known illnesses that we suffer with, natural illnesses, they all make tons of money. Addiction doesn't. No one's interested. There's no money to be made in it. So at the end of the day, that's what the government know what they do. You know what I mean? Certain things about certain illnesses. And it is an illness, of course it's an illness. But people don't see it. You go to the hospital with heart palpitations in your heart because you be on cocaine, you get laughed at. So, but they don't see that, hang on, this lad is deeply troubled, he's got serious stuff going on in his life. But they judge you and they'll laugh at you. Do you know what I mean? So it needs to be, I mean, you never hear of addiction being an illness. You only hear it amongst ourselves or people who've been through it as an illness. You know, you never hear it. You don't go to hospital and you've got put stuff on boards or signs saying it's an illness. You don't see it. Do you know what I mean? So I think a lot more needs to be done about addiction and understanding exactly what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's not understand it's an illness, a mental illness, you know, and it's not something that we choose to do. Well, it is at the start, but obviously once you cross that threshold, you know what I mean, you lose the power to choose yes or no, and you know, and that's you're away with the fairies then. Do you know what I mean?
So you completely drug and alcohol free now?
Don't smoke ciggies, don't eat chocolate. No? Now and again. I had 2 flakes last night. You know, but I'm absolutely teetotal. I won't drink, and no matter how I feel, right, I won't go back to that. There's no way I could go back to that. I couldn't hurt the people who love me, my family, and the fact is as well, I mean, over the last couple of years, right, I've literally started to like myself and love myself. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a vanity way. No. Right, I mean that in a way where I can sit in my own skin. I can get up and sit on my own. I can sit in silence. Yeah. I could never do that. Yeah. Something always had to be on. Telly, radio, there always had to be something happening. I could never comfortable.
Just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, never comfortable with myself in that now. I love spending time on my own. Not to get much of it because little Vinny pushes with me constantly, but you know, I really enjoy my own time and stuff, which something I never did.
Yeah. Do you still have that moment in the morning? Did you say where you get up and you, obviously with the music, but is there a little moment where you just sit with silence and?
Sometimes, I mean, I don't necessarily go out my way to do it, but you know, sometimes, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It does help.
Yeah.
I love being on my own. I say that.
Want me to go?
Go ahead, I'll get off as well.
No, I think it's because I'm an unsociable bugger as well. I'm an old soul. I'm a grumpy old granddad, mate. But no. So, you said you were in the dry house.
Oh yeah. So I had this wonderful idea. You know, I was always a trier. Honestly, I used to lose jobs every 2 weeks because I wouldn't turn in, or you know, my attitude or whatever. But I'd be out and I'd be walking miles and miles, and I'd end up with a job. I mean, I lied my way into jobs. I was saying I was a ground worker, I was this, I was that, you know, and it worked for me. So I had knowledge of certain things, and when I was in this shared accommodation, I had a brainwave, make a load of flyers on paper, driveway cleaning, and my phone number and stuff like that. And as how naive I was, but very eager, I post them all over Queen's Drive. Next time I started getting phone calls, you come and clean the driveway. I didn't have a van. or anything. So one of my friends, Chris, you know, he was in a good position then, and he helped me out. He hired me a van. I got all the vans signed up and I got a driveway cleaning machine. So next thing I put my addiction into that. So I was knocking at doors constantly, driveway cleaning, and they'd say no, but I wouldn't leave them. I'd be like, well, I'll do for this much, I'll do for that much. And I'd walk off the job and I'd realise, well, I'd say like 45 quid. And there'd be nothing left of me. So you've got your petrol for your machine, your sand and all that stuff. So, but that's how my addiction went into that. So basically through that, I mean, I was doing well. I was doing well, and you know, unfortunately though, I relapsed through that. But I carried on with my business. But I think it was about two weeks before Christmas, and they come and took the van off me because it was a hire van, and obviously no one wants the driveway cleaned in that time of year. So I took the van, and I think I had about £600 left. So I went out and bought a screwed-out van with no heaters. And I progressed from there, literally. I progressed from that van, started with that van, and I put money away, and I just kept investing. So I would say how it's worked out for me is that a lot of people have benefited from this, because you've got all the companies. All these lads have worked for me in the past, and you know, it's created opportunities for them and their families, because they've now started their own businesses. My brother Carl, he owns a brilliant firm. I won't say his company because I don't want him to get any work off this, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so basically from that, you know, what I've achieved in life is being through really hard work and focus and vision, and having a vision in life. I always said, and I was saying this through being egotistical, but I always said, even when I had nothing, that I'd own a Bentley one day. Always said it. And you know what? No, I do. Do you know what I mean? And you know, the fact is that what I do now is not for me. I've got everything I need. I've got a nice house. Most importantly of all, I've got lovely kids who love the bones of me, who respect me, and they've got a future, because we've got other businesses, and it's there. To be honest, they just belongs to them. Sam runs a grab wagon company, Lee and Anthony, the driveways, and you know, basically what I've done, I've given them a future. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really proud of that fact, you know, of where, you know, basically where I've come from. You know, because there's no way I could get where I am today, with my mentality and my thinking. But I will say this much, right? There's one thing that absolutely helped me and changed my life, and anyone who's listening to this should take note, because I was introduced to a 12-step program. Right, the 12-step program was 12 steps of recovery. And I just had no idea about myself. I had no idea. I thought everyone else was wrong. I thought that all my resentments, which I had hundreds of them, right, resentments to everyone, and everyone who had upset, I couldn't see that I'd upset them. So when it all went down on paper and I went through each step, and I seen my part in every last thing that I've ever done, because I wrote a list that was page after page of everyone I'd harmed, you know, everyone I cheated on, everyone I stole from, you know, my kids, letting them down. So the list was endless, right? But then I had an excuse, I had a reason why I'd done this. But when it was put to me, look, this is your part, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. And it opened my eyes, my perspective, and I was like, so I accepted the responsibility that all that stuff was me. Then you go on to some more steps, and then basically what you basically do is you write all your harms, right? Everyone you ever harmed in your life, well, it doesn't matter what it is, you know, whether it's theft or you've cheated on them, you've stole from, whatever it is, and then you write everyone down, every last single person, don't leave a stone unturned, and then you go out and you make amends, right? Yeah. Literally make amends. So all that horrible stuff that you've done over years of using active addiction, all that disgusting behaviour that you've just brushed off, and you know it's not right, but you brushed off, and you've pushed it deep inside yourself, right? That's why you hate yourself. That's why you don't like yourself. right? Because you pushed it down. But once you get rid of all that, right, doing the Swelter program, and you go round and you're making amends where you can without saying anyone else. I mean, I've done it. I went round and made my amends to everyone. Honestly, it was the biggest spiritual experience I've ever had in my life. I was free. I was free from bondage that I put myself through. I was free from it. I got everything out. Everything was gone. Do you know what I mean? And there was some sad ones I had to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel very emotional now talking about it because, I mean, you know, there was one lady, you know, and she was, I was partly in a relationship with her. She was a lot older than me, and she had pneumonia, but she was close to dying. You know what I mean? And we were living together, and because we lived together, I thought you know, I couldn't see anything wrong without using a bank card. So I'm using a bank card, and you know, but my perspective on things, you know, I'm entitled, I live here, and I don't know what it was, but it wasn't dishonest at the time of me doing it. I just thought it's okay. But then when obviously it's at the end of the day, it's still theft. No, so basically when I come out to do my amends, that was one of the biggest ones I had to do.
Yeah.
And other things relating to my family, and I had to go make amends for that. But you know what? I mean, the response I got from it was amazing. Do you know what I mean? I paid back. So every debt that I ever had and I accumulated over the years, through addiction, getting mobile phones, selling them, running mobile phones, not ever paying a bill. I never paid a bill in my life, honestly. Never paid a bill. And then I found all my debtors and I paid everything back. Every last thing I ever took, I've give back. And I give back much more and more. Do you know what I mean? And the more I give, the more I get.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense, the more I give.
So it does, yeah.
Just
Well, the law of attraction is like that. What you put out there, you get back tenfold.
Yeah.
100%. So just before we finish up, and this might sound like a mad question, but would you change any of it?
No. I wouldn't change any of it.
And why?
Because I wouldn't be the person I am today. And the people who benefit from my success wouldn't be benefiting. You know? And there's a lot of people going to benefit from me in times to come. I mean, I've got other things in motion. I mean, I haven't just, you know, this is just a small part of my journey, what I'm doing now with my life, my businesses. You know, I'm going to get much bigger than this. You know, and that's a fact. I'm looking forward to working with some important people, as you know. You know with the few things we've spoken about, and you know, and I'm just looking forward to it. You know, to a nice peaceful life, right? And you know what? I'm just going to finish with this because it's important, right? Behaviour, right? Your behaviour, my behaviour is a major factor in my addiction. Hating people, resenting people. Disliking people, trying to control people, trying to control things you've got no control over. So that's just a quick example is that in work we do driveways. Now a lad can be on a job, right, and I'm expecting to be done that day, but then I'm all burnt up inside and I'm trying to control it, trying to get them it should be finished this. I'm trying to control something which is not possible. So I'm burning up. So I've done that for a long time. Tried to control freak, trying to control women, everyday aspects of my life, and you know what? All it does is make you ill. So, you know, it's your behaviour is a massive part in your addiction you're using. You know, just keep yourself spiritually well, which I do on a daily basis. I have to live a spiritual basis because who I am is not who I present today. You know what I mean? If I don't be spiritual or I don't practice spirituality, I don't practice being nice, and I don't, you know what I mean? I can be someone else. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I'm not a bad person, but you know, I can be obnoxious, I can be disrespectful, I don't realise I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean? So I need to keep myself on a spiritual basis all the time. Yeah. You know what? And it keeps me safe, keeps me well, and it keeps me at arm's length. Do you know what I mean? So I hope you know, I might have got through to some 100%. People today. And,
most definitely, yeah.
I mean, there's tons more I can say there. Literally, there's loads, but you know, it's, you know, when you're under the light like this and you and you're trying to figure it out and trying to get out what the best things to say to help other people. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I lose my way of thinking. Do you know what I mean? So, but that's what we do, don't we? We lose our way of thought. I mean,
well, like I say,
I normally get in the car and go, I should have said that, and I should have followed it with that.
I think people listening and watching this, it'll resonate with a lot of people and
Most definitely,
and help. But I know like how open you are on social media, and you say, look, you know, reach out to me, ask the question. You know, I think a lot of people will, and you know, I think you're quite open to do that and offer any advice and help. So
1,000,000%. Can I just say something now? You know, for anyone who's suffering from addiction, mental health, that 12-step program, you know, it doesn't just stop you from using. It sorts your mental health out because you straighten out. Honestly, it's amazing. You know, when anyone's struggling with addiction and they feel like they haven't got no way out, the only way out is suicide, because that's what we do. We think about ways out, suicide. I mean, I used to lie in bed, heart pounding, and I'd lie there and I'd actually welcome death. I'd say, you know what, take me. You know what, just take me. I can't do this, can't do it. And you know what, I'd welcome death. That's how raw it was for me. Do you know what I mean? And that's for everyone else. But there is a way out. Now there's meetings all over the world, right? Every city, all over the world. Doesn't matter where it is. These meetings, right? So in Liverpool, there's loads of meetings in Liverpool. You've got Cocaine Anonymous, you've got Gamblers Anonymous, you've got Narcotics Anonymous, and there's loads of other things that, you know, other things that people are addicted to, like they can go to, but you know, they have a meetings lists on Google, so you just Google what it is: Cocaine Anonymous, Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. You just Google it, and it'll give you the meetings list. Get yourself to one of them meetings. You know what I mean? Get yourself. You know, it could be the start of a brand new journey. If you've had enough, if you're at the end of your rope, right, and you've got no rope left, right, and you are at your lowest point in life where you just don't want to live, and you don't want to live, you don't want to die. But you just can't live anymore, then you know there's only one option, because you've probably tried doctors and psychiatrists and you know all this stuff, and you know they don't understand these people. You know, they don't understand these doctors. They don't understand addiction. You know, they've never saw a drug. They've never had a cigarette in their life, or never had a drug in their life. They don't understand. All they're going off is what
textbooks tell them.
Absolutely, you know, scientists and stuff. But you've got to live it. You've got to live it to understand it. Do you know what I mean? And you know, I think that's why they have all.
I believe
like,
that's the best help.
Yeah, they have all, like, you know, people, ex-addicts now doing rehabs and like jail centres and stuff like that. So, but you know, there's a way out. There really is, but it's hard. Once you stop using, you're left with all the emotions that you've suppressed. You've suppressed feelings that you've got, and you've suppressed them for years. So then feelings come back, and you're not used to them, and they're painful. So like anger, frustration, being restless, irritable, discontent, not being able to sit right with yourself, and your escape route is your drug of choice. And that's why it's like going to a cupboard. It's got headache tablets. You got a headache. I just automatically do it. Headache tablets. That's it. But same with drugs. So you're feeling like that. Your escape route, your comfort zone, your comfort blanket is the drink or the drug. But the drink and the drug is just the tip of the iceberg. It really is. You know what?
Yeah, it is.
It is. No drink and drug could do anything for me. Not a thing. I'm too high on life now, as it is. You know what I mean? A drink and a drug won't fix anything for me. You know, if I have a bad day, I wake up, I accept I'm having a bad day. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. If I'm down tomorrow, you know what? I'll be up the next day. And it's just the way of life. It's the way we all do. We all suffer the same thing. But other people, they're not introduced to a drug or alcohol to fix that. To fix that void. Does that make sense?
100%.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, brother.
And it's been good. And like I say, I think a lot of people will enjoy it and benefit from it, most importantly. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thanks, boss.
Appreciate it.